Bienvenidos, señoras y señores, to another Bleed Los podcast short. This short is going to be about FanFest. Babyface and I went to FanFest, and we want to share with you. We interviewed a lot of Dodger players. We got a lot of good stuff there. As you can see on the screen, you might have seen Babyface and I. As you can see, Babyface is holding that Retire 34 hat, which all of a sudden I think has become a little more popular. I saw somebody in Long Beach wearing a Retired 34 hat. So I think that would be a great hat to wear if you're planning on going to the big surprise that the Dodgers did at FanFest. So I want to get into all of that. But first of all, let's start off with this. This was my first time ever going to a Dodgers Fan Fest, and I'm going to let you know, I really had no desire to ever go to a Dodgers Fan Fest. I'm just like, I'd rather go to games. So I really didn't know what to expect, and I know that this has been the first Fan Fest that has happened since 2020. 2019 was a more traditional Fan Fest, right, Babyface? 2020, they just did it out in the parking lot because of the renovations, the construction that they were doing with Dodger Stadium. So I really don't have anything to compare it to. Babyface, you have been to plenty of Dodger Fan Fest. How did this one feel to you compared to those other ones that you had been to?
Yeah, I think I've gone to all of them except 2020. So I went to the first one, and then, the first one was pretty crazy. It was pretty wild, because we didn't know what to expect that first one. So it was just crowded. Seemed a lot, less organized. The autographs and all that stuff was free back then. So the line for the autographs was from the stadium all the way down to the parking lot entrance. So you'd see stuff like that. So then after that, they started doing the autographs and all the other different things that they do now, where you'd pay and it goes to charity. Real quick on that though, do I want to get into
it? Get into it. I knew you were going to bring it up. Get into it.
I saw some of the other ones. I saw a couple people that I know that are Padres fans, and there was a lot of complaints about the Padres. They had their fan fest yesterday as well. A lot of people were upset because there was long lines. There was a lot of people. They were complaining there was a lot of people. They were having everything was free. And earlier in the week, I had seen some Padres fans saying, I can't believe the Dodgers are charging money, blah, 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 this and that. And basically, the Padres found out now what it is to have fans. And a lot of people showed up. A lot of people showed up to their fan fest, and they couldn't do anything. So I'm guessing next year there will be a charge for people to get autographs and stuff because it controls the lines, right? It gives it a little bit more. So there was a lot of Padre fans because it was their first, they just became fans, a couple months ago or a year ago, and they started showing up to Fan Fest. So I saw a lot of upset Padre fans. So kind of the same thing with the Dodgers, and you get it too with the Dodgers. I noticed there was a lot of Dodger fans that, maybe don't go because they think it's going to cost money or whatever. But the entrance and all that stuff was free. Parking was free. The food and if you bought anything there, the foundation, they were selling old bobbleheads, old jerseys, just different stuff. You could buy balls, jerseys. So a lot of stuff to do.
All-Star gear was 50% off. They were selling there.
Yeah, so there was a lot of stuff. You could go in there and spend a lot of money. So it depends. I've seen a lot of people that go there specifically for that, to go and buy, a bunch of memorabilia, and that's what they go for. And then obviously there's people that don't want to go in and spend a lot of money. And I mean, you don't have to. You could just go check out what's going on, check out the interviews that are on the stage, So it's a pretty fun time if you just want to go and check all that out. And depending, like I said, how you want to go do it. If you want to go spend some money on getting autographs, it's a great opportunity. I mean, $30 for an autograph, that's not going to happen. I mean, Diego Cartaya was signing, right? Cartaya was signing, right? Go look up ball on eBay. Look up a ball on eBay, right? It's going to be like $150. You could have gotten for $30 there. When are you going to get that opportunity to do something like that, right? So for stuff like that, I think it's an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I had no interest in any of that stuff, so that's the reason why I didn't. What I noticed there was it seemed very kid-friendly. There was a lot of booths there for you to bring your kids. So I feel the family environment is very nice. I did feel it was organized in terms of the booths and all that stuff. Now, I didn't bother to get food there because I knew I'm going to be paying the regular
Well,
prices
yeah,
that I
yeah,
would pay when
at
I
a
go to
game.
the stadium. But it was from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And when we were walking out of the stadium, it was maybe 3 o'clock, I think, and people were still showing up to get there. So I mean, it's like I said, it's free. It's not a ticketed event. You If you want to meet a perfect opportunity, they were doing selfies. I think it's probably the easiest way that you're going to get access to some of these players.
Yeah.
Then I think it's easier to get access to the players at FanFest than it is at spring training because I feel like the crowds at spring training are nuts. Trying to get an autograph at spring training, I think is really hard. I mean, you have kids and you've been making the trip to spring training for a while. Did you find it difficult to get autographs at spring training?
Well, I mean, spring training is different. I mean, you can get autographs there too, but also, like I said, baseball memorabilia, it's like a job. It's like a whole industry, right? So when you go to spring training, you have, and same thing with FanFest, you have people that are just there to get autographs, adults, right? That are
Yeah.
looking to get them and sell them. So when you go those are the people that you see in front of those lines, right? And even you have kids, they're trying to like, come on, let the kids in, let the kids in. And a lot of the players will specifically, they'll come out and they'll walk by and look for kids to sign for them. So that that's a good thing. But like I said, $30. It's going to the Dodger charity. There was a lot of guys on there that Muncy was signing. Like we said, Cartaya, Outman. A lot of these guys that hey, if you want an autograph, $30 ain't bad. To get it.
No, and so before we get into the interviews and the people that we talked to at FanFest, you had mentioned, people were already complaining about, that you had to pay for the autographs, or people were complaining that they looked like there were more people at the Show Pods Fan Fest than there were at everything like it was a complaint. But one of the complaints that I found really, really interesting was that Mookie Betts was not there, right? And I feel like Mookie is taking a lot of heat. I feel Mookie takes heat from the bowling aspect. Mookie takes heat because he didn't show up to FanFest. That Mookie is not invested in the Dodgers, or he is not invested in baseball. What I wanted to ask you, and I see where people are coming from with that, but I don't see. Who else wasn't there? Clayton Kershaw wasn't at FanFest, and Will Smith was not at FanFest, and those are two big Dodger stars. Have you heard the reasons why either Kershaw or Will Smith were not at FanFest? I know that Mookie Betts was not at FanFest because he's competing what did you call it, babyface, to be the greatest bowler in the PBA?
Yeah, it seems like I think he's trying to be the number one bowler in the world. I think he was tied a couple of days ago. So I mean, I don't know how he ended up, but yeah, I mean, I didn't see a reason why Smith or Kershaw. I mean, obviously, probably other commitments, other things. I mean, FanFest isn't a requirement, for team players. Hey, you have to be here. It's kind of, if they're available, they can do it. So, I mean, that's why we didn't see some of those guys. Bueller wasn't there. I mean, I'm sure they've got other stuff going on as well, and the Dodgers just announced it like 2 weeks ago, right? 3 weeks ago. So these guys could have had other plans, ahead of time.
And I think that's a very interesting distinction that you made there, in the sense that it wasn't mandatory for these players to come. So the fact that some of those players, are willing to go in there and interact with fans and do this kind of stuff, it does, I think it makes me look at them a little differently, in the sense that I get they get it, because they could have very easily passed. Now, I'm sure there's some pressure. I mean, if you have a fan fest and half of the players don't show up, I don't think the Dodgers are going to be happy about it. So I'm sure it's strongly encouraged that the Dodger players show up, but I just found it interesting that Mookie was getting heat for not being there, but yet I didn't hear any heat on Kershaw or any heat on Will Smith. And I get it. No one's gonna, criticize Kershaw for especially everything that Kershaw has done for the Dodgers.
Well,
But what if this is Kershaw's last year with the Dodgers? Go ahead.
real quick, I think just maybe people might have been upset with Mookie because he was originally announced to be there, and he was going to do one of the things like a meet and greet. So people paid money, and then he canceled. I mean, Gavin Lux too, he was supposed to be, but I think he was sick, so he didn't end up. So, and they specify that too. These are the guys that are scheduled to be there, but it could be changing. Yeah, subject to change. You never know what could happen. Somebody gets sick. I don't know while they're planning it. Okay, yeah, Mookie, and then all of a sudden they find out, hey, he's got another commitment, or somebody's got another commitment. So,
yeah, look, if that stuff doesn't interest you and you just want to walk around Dodger Stadium like on the field, I think FanFest is perfect for you. If you don't have anything to do, just go. It's free. Just walk around, commiserate. As you had mentioned, Babyface, they do interviews on the grand stage. You get to watch the interviews. So, I mean, there's worse ways that you could spend your day than going to FanFest. But it was just interesting to hear people's reactions, especially, once people start tweeting what's going on at FanFest.
It's interesting what you just said though about guys being there, and you asked one of the guys that was there like how he felt about being there, right?
Yeah, and so let's get into it. So we talked to a few, we talked to a lot of people. So we're going to play some of the interviews that we got at FanFest. And one of the first people that we talked to is none other than Phil Bickford. So play the tape, Babyface.
Yeah, I just been going into CBR and Camelback, working out with Yav and all the strength coaches there, Stoney too, and Connor's been there, and all the pitching guys, just having fun, getting ready to help the team. So, yeah.
Hey Phil, so how do you like these events where you are asked to interact with fans?
I love it. It's cool. This fan base is very special and never gets old. It's fun to be around everybody. All the energy is very contagious, especially being at Dodger Stadium. This place is amazing. Yeah, I absolutely love it. So it's fun.
Is it easy to be yourself, or do you feel you're a little bit on guard?
I'm doing my best to be myself. I try to always do that. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It is what it is. You just gotta work on it. I feel like every organization is kind of gonna do their own way of working on it to get ready. At the end of the day, just gotta be ready. I mean, they're rules, so yeah.
Here's one of the things that cracks me up about Phil Bickford. You can clearly tell that Phil Bickford doesn't have a lot of experience talking to the media. And when you think about it, how many times do you think after a game people request, hey, can we speak to Bickford? The only reason they're going to be talking to Bickford is if he blew the game, right? Or something completely weird happened. But I just thought it was so funny that, here he is being asked to address the media. And it seemed like nobody had any specific questions for him. And he's standing there awkwardly in front of us going, hey, the way this works, guys, is you ask me questions and I respond. And it didn't, nobody was helping the poor guy out. What did you think there, Babyface?
Oh, I mean, what I liked about Bickford is like he's just being him, right? Like he's there, his hair, his hair is flowing. He was in shorts. He was just like, he was going out for a picnic somewhere or whatever, right? And just like, and then even when they asked him, like, what do you think about the rule changes? And he's like, yeah, I don't know, like playing the game, right? Like the rules, like you got to do them, right? It's like, he's just himself. And he even said it, like, talking to people, it looked like he's just being himself, right? He's being who Phil Bickford is, right? And that's what we got.
What I should have asked Phil Bickford is if he was a surfer. Did you see the hat that he was wearing?
Yeah.
And I mean, with that hair, and I feel like he just has that mentality that he is the surfer. He's just a surfer dude. But Bickford, the funny thing is I think Bickford is one of those guys that's going to be on the fringe of maybe not making the team because there's going to be a lot of competition in that bullpen. And I think Bickford is always on the verge of being the odd man out. What do you think of Bickford this year? What his chances are in the Dodgers bullpen?
Yeah, I mean it's going to be tough. There's a lot of guys competing in that bullpen, right? I think last year we saw him kind of go up and down, and then he was pretty solid the year before, right? When he first came up, he came kind of one of those guys came out of nowhere, and he was pretty solid. Last year he had a little bit more up and down, so. That's the thing with relievers, right? You don't know what you're going to get with those guys like year in and year out. Like 1 year they're off, 1 year they're on. So, maybe this year he's going to be on the entire year. So we'll see.
Last year he was just used as mop-up duty. They were just bringing him in when it was they're either blowing a team out or they're getting blown out. So I'm curious to see what happens with him going into spring training, just because I feel there's going to be people, competing for spots. Daniel Hudson's going to be coming back. Shelby Miller, I guess, is supposed to be coming out of the bullpen. It's going to be a numbers game in that bullpen. So I'm curious to see how things work out for good old Phil Bickford, but we appreciate that Bickford took the time to talk to us. Another guy in the bullpen that I think has a more solidified role, and I'm really eager to see what this season comes because I feel he had like a really strong season last year, is good old Yency Almonte. Yency spoke with us. Babyface, play the tape.
So, Yency, we were talking to James Outman, and he recently got married. You recently got married. James said he identifies now more with the veterans on the team that are married. Do you find yourself now identifying with the veterans now that you're married?
No, I'm still the same guy. Nothing changes besides the ring on my finger. So, other than that, everything stays the same.
And how was your off season?
It was great. Great off season. Excited to get ready to come back and pitch.
So, what does the Showtime moniker mean on Almonte on your social media?
Just me, just being the athlete that I am, and just going out there and being myself.
Yency, Ocho Cinco recently admitted that his jewelry was fake. It doesn't look like your jewelry is fake.
I'm dumb for that, but no, it's not fake.
Do you have a jeweler, and do you recommend one?
Happy Jewelers.
So shout out to Happy Jewelers there, right?
Shout out to Happy Jewelers, who I guess also not only supports Almonte, but one of the beat writers there provided some jewelry for an engagement there. So that's the first time I had heard of Happy Jewelers. But Yency Almonte had a great season last year. And he was like a reliable. He had that injury towards the end of the season, but he was able to recover, and they were able to use him down the stretch and in the playoffs. But I was not expecting that last year from Yency Almonte. Do you think that Yency can repeat that performance that he had last year and maybe improve on it this year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when we spoke to him, right, it was when he was down and he was ready to come back, and he was just saying the changes that he implemented. That's what we saw at the beginning of the season and before he got hurt, and then after we saw that he was using what the Dodgers saw. Hey, this is what we want you to do, and he's continued to do that. So I think Yency is one of those guys that he's going to have success, and he'll probably be a big piece of that bullpen once again this season.
You know what was interesting, and we didn't get it in the clip, but Yency went to arbitration. His arbitration hearing was the day of his rehearsal dinner, right before he got married, right before his wedding day. I mean, how stressful can that be? You got to go to an arbitration hearing to determine what your salary is going to be, and then, I mean, what would have happened if he lost his? I mean, they came to an agreement, but if they would have had to go to arbitration or stuff like that, it might have ruined his poor wedding for the guy. But yeah, Yency, I'm hoping good things. But I mean, the Dodgers still, I don't think, have named a closer. I don't think the Dodgers have a closer, so I think it's going to be closer by committee. It seems like the Dodgers are okay with that. I could see maybe Yency closing out games for them. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, like you said, that closer by committee. Yency, Vesia, would he get some time there as well? I think it's going to, unless, like I said, they go ahead and go into spring training and say, you know what, we need a closer, and they go out and trying to find a defined closer, we're going to see a number of these guys. It might be 3, 4, 5 guys. Gratterall, all those guys I think are going to get, depending on the situation, they're going to get a chance to close out a game here and there.
Another guy that we got a chance to talk to is a guy that I think has been very popular this offseason, and a lot of people are interested in seeing, and that's Miguel Vargas. Miguel Vargas wearing his new jersey with the number 17 on it. For those of you who remember, Miguel Vargas was wearing 71 last year when he was called up. So we have Miguel here. Let's play the tape, babyface.
Physique or getting bigger, getting stronger, working on the field, taking a lot of reps, doing a lot of things around the field, and just getting better every day.
Have you spent the whole winter here or been in Miami?
¿Dónde has estado todo el
He estado aquí, he estado en Miami y ahora estamos aquí de vuelta de nuevo.
Yeah, I've been here, I've been in Miami, I've been here again, and then Miami, and then back here again.
So we saw Miguel Rojas and you working out together. When was that? What were you doing with him?
Te vimos viendo, entrenando con Miguel Rojas. ¿Qué estás haciendo con él y qué te ha enseñado? ¿Qué ha sido con eso?
Estuvimos lo conocí la semana antes de regresar aquí a Los Ángeles. Creo que desde que tuvo el cambio nos estuvimos escribiendo, ¿sabes? Y él siempre estuvo disponible para ayudarme y quedamos un día en Miami, trabajamos algunas cosas y esperamos seguir haciéndolo aquí.
Yeah, I got to meet him like the last time I was here. Got to spend some time with him, got to talk to him. He's been very available and approachable, so I've been communicating with him. We've been working out together. We got a chance to work out in Miami together and just talk to him.
¿Y JD Martinez también?
Yeah, JD too. He's my brother, big brother.
How long have you known him?
I know him since 2-3 months ago, since he signed with the Dodgers. I text him, he got a lot of relationship with our hitting coach too, and he was hitting in Miami. I was texting him and if I can go with him, and he was available for do that, and I hope I'm getting better doing it.
They said that you've been doing a lot of work at second base. How comfortable are you over there?
I feel good. I feel better now. I'm working a lot here in Miami too. I'm working with Placido Polanco. I'm working with Dino too, and I told they helped me a lot, and I feel a lot of comfortable playing second.
Have they told you you're a second baseman?
No, they don't tell me straight, but I'm ready for it.
How exciting is it to know, you're heading to big league camp, you're going to break camp with the team, you're going to probably be in the lineup every day. You've made it to that point.
¿Cómo te sientes que ya llegaste al tiempo de tu carrera, que ya vas a estar con el equipo grande, vas a estar en spring training con el equipo grande, vas a llegar a una posición para llegar al equipo grande y empezar la temporada con el equipo grande? ¿Y qué es la emoción que sientes con ese aspecto de tu carrera?
Creo que muchas cosas no pueden cambiar de aquí a que empiece la temporada el primer día, ¿no? Quiero estar preparado, quiero estar ready para la spring training y solo eso, prepararme, y de aquí a allá las cosas pueden cambiar mucho y todavía queda mucho que trabajar.
Yeah, things can change, things can change by the time we get here to the time of the regular season. I just want to get you ready. I want to focus on doing everything I can to be ready, and then that opportunity presents itself, be ready for that.
What'd you learn from your time in the big leagues last year?
¿Qué aprendiste con tu tiempo aquí que estás en Los Ángeles?
No, aprendí demasiado, ¿no? Creo que el grupo de compañeros que hay aquí en este equipo, en esta organización, todas las personas que trabajan alrededor de la organización, creo que me han ayudado demasiado a entender un poco más el juego, a trabajar un poco más en cosas que en verdad necesito, y creo que me ha ayudado demasiado en conseguir cumplir con mi carrera.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I learned from everybody around me. I learned a lot of different aspects about the game, about the preparation. There's been so many things that people have helped me out throughout. Just everything that has happened, I've learned from that experience.
So, is there one or two things he's working on defensively more than anything else?
¿Hay una cosa o dos cositas que estás trabajando más en la defensa que otras cosas?
Estoy trabajando en todo.
No, just working on everything.
Do you feel like you have to do anything different training, knowing that you might have to play second this year?
¿Tú piensas que tienes que cambiar tu entrenamiento sabiendo que vas a jugar segunda base más este año?
No creo que simplemente trabajar y aprender y ser mejor cada día, creo que va a ser que yo pueda seguir jugando la posición.
No, not really. Just keep working and trying to get better every day.
It's like, that surprised you at all when the season ended? You were playing third and left here, and then Justin Turner leaves, and he's a little low happening at third base. Did it surprise you then to hear second base?
¿Te sorprendió un poquito que le dijeron que empezaron a hablar que ibas a jugar segunda base? Porque el último año jugaste tercera y el jardín izquierdo. ¿Te sorprendió un poquito?
No, para nada. Creo que siempre he estado jugando esas dos posiciones durante toda mi carrera en Liga Menor y simplemente hay muchas cosas en el equipo que necesita hacer y yo estoy dispuesto a ayudar.
No, I think, I've been playing those positions my whole career in the minor leagues, and there's things about the team that they need, and I'm ready and I'm able to play or do whatever they need to do.
What has JD or Rojas told you in terms of making that last step offensively to the big leagues? What's sort of the biggest thing for you?
¿Qué te han dicho JD o Miguel o lo que te han ayudado para llegar para ya acercarte más a las grandes ligas y ser en el Royal Plus?
Creo que trabajar más duro de lo que lo estaba haciendo antes.
I think just work harder than I used to work.
Why did you pick 17?
Porque soy de 17.
Pues nací el 17 de noviembre.
He was born November 17th.
So to me, there was a couple of things that were very interesting about that takeaway. First of all, the Dodgers have not formally told him that he's playing second base. In the last couple of weeks, there's been this narrative, and I get it, it's because Friedman said it, but there's this narrative that Miguel Vargas is going to be the starting second baseman. But you heard it from Vargas himself. No one told him that he's playing second base. It seems like he's getting this from secondhand. I think it's very interesting that he immediately reached out to Miguel Rojas and that he reached out to JD Martinez. I think that's always a good sign when you have a young player reaching out to veterans, because to me, it's a sign of, hey, dude, I want to get better. And you guys have been in the game. You guys have had success at the major league level. You guys have been here for a while. I want to learn from you. So I think that's very encouraging to see a work ethic like that from Miguel Vargas, that even though he's highly touted, he still knows he has a lot to prove. I find it interesting that he was working with Plácido Polanco. Does Plácido Polanco work for the Dodgers, babyface? Because that's the first time I've ever heard anyone in the Dodgers associated with Plácido Polanco.
No, I think he's just reaching out to guys that are in Miami that have played and just getting the work in, right? But yeah, I mean, it is interesting to hear him saying that he's going to be playing second base. And you heard it with other people. I think Doc was talking about it yesterday as well. It seems like he's going to get a majority of time at second base because Max is more comfortable now, getting more comfortable at third. A couple of seasons ago, Max didn't like third, and he was the first or second. So it looks like now they're going to give that more time with Max at third, and then you'll see Miguel Vargas probably in second, maybe even again in the outfield. So same thing with Lux. You'll probably see him in the infield, second short. So it is interesting.
Before we move on to our next interview, the infield defense, does that not concern you? You're going to have a rookie who is not a second baseman by nature, a shortstop who you played second base last year, who was a defensive liability to begin with. Max Muncy going back to third base. I mean, Freddie Freeman seems to be the most solid. Freddie Freeman might have to earn a Gold Glove this year to save a lot of errors in that infield. Any concerns with you in terms of the infield defense?
I mean, honestly, it's not. I don't see it that much different, right? I mean, we know Lux limitations at second. I mean, probably see some of that at short. But Trey Turner, I get it. He's more well-known shortstop, but he had his limit. He's not the best defensive shortstop in the game, right? So, kind of the same thing there. Max. I feel Max is pretty solid. He was pretty solid at second. He's. I think that helps the Dodgers, and maybe we'll see this be affected too. Is where they place their guys, right? Like with shifts and stuff like that, they'd place these guys, in the right spots. So, someone on third base. I mean, you can still, place that guy in the right spot, so it's still, I mean, the Dodgers are probably not going to be the best defensive team out there, right? We know that for sure. So, we'll see. I mean, I think Rojas is fine. All these guys are probably about average, right? Maybe a little bit above average on the defensive side. So, we'll see.
So the next interview is a guy that everybody wanted to get a piece of, and that's Julio Urias. So let's see what Julio had to say. Play the tape, babyface.
I think the big question for your offseason is, did you add any tattoos?
Que si agregaste unos tatuajes esta temporada.
Sí, tengo en mis piernas ahora, entonces sí, tengo novedades.
There's some new ones on my legs this year.
Can I ask about your thought process around participating in the WBC? Is that like...
¿Qué pensaste cuando para pichar en el clásico y qué es lo que quieres hacer cuando pichas?
No, va a ser algo muy bonito, va a ser algo muy significativo para mí, para todo el país, mi familia obviamente van a estar contentos y siento que es un reto para todos nosotros como mexicanos poderles demostrar a todo el mundo, ¿no? Obviamente el béisbol que tiene México y tratar de poner esa armonía y esa sangre mexicana adentro del terreno que la verdad siento que es lo que nos identifica como mexicanos.
Yeah, it's an incredible opportunity, incredible experience to be able to put on that jersey to help to represent my country and show the whole world what Team Mexico can do.
It's not every year that stars like Clayton, like Mookie, like Freddie will all participate. Why do you think there's so much interest in it this year?
No, es como año diferente, como los superestrellas están jugando como Mookie, Clayton y todos ellos. ¿Qué significa más este año para que todos están participando en este torneo?
No, siento que va a ser algo muy divertido, como lo digo. Yo siento que al ver a todos ellos también participar le va a dar ese plus al torneo de como lo digo, ¿no? Que todo el mundo esté pendiente de ese torneo, porque obviamente esos nombres sabemos que pesan en todos lados y que vayan a participar para mí la verdad es un orgullo y enfrentarlos y llamarlos enemigos va a ser algo divertido, ¿no?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an incredible tournament, to put those kind of names, to put that kind of class in a tournament like that. It's going to be the spectacle of the world, and just to be able to call them enemies for the first time or for any time, it's going to be fun to watch and participate in.
¿El equipo te ha hablado sobre un nuevo contrato?
Ahorita estoy enfocado en jugar, ¿no? Ahorita estoy enfocado en jugar. Sabemos que primero viene el clásico, después viene la temporada y tengo obviamente esos dos mentalidades. Ahorita en mi trabajo trato de enfocarme lo más que pueda, obviamente en esos dos temas. Ahorita estoy enfocado en eso, como lo digo ya, mi representante y ellos tendrán su punto de hablar, ¿no? Pero yo ahorita estoy enfocado 100% en el campo.
Julio, hablamos con Benji Gill y nos dijo que hay mucho talento en la Liga Mexicana, no solamente en los mayores. ¿Has tenido comunicación con los jugadores mexicanos?
Bueno, siempre tratamos de estar unidos, ¿no? Obviamente tratamos de tener buena armonía, como ya lo dije, tenemos buenos coaches, la verdad que todos miramos el staff de coaches que tenemos y siento que como pelotero mexicano el tener esos coaches siempre es de respeto y le vamos a dar ese respeto que merecen y tratar de dar el 100% de nosotros, que es lo que vamos a hacer.
¿No has pensado que este puede ser tu última temporada aquí en Los Ángeles?
No, como ya lo dije, no, obviamente todo el mundo sabemos lo que es o lo que termina en base del contrato, pero eso es lo que no se puede esconder. Obviamente trato de enfocarme al máximo ahorita en el béisbol y ya después lo que salga, lo que tenga que pasar, que pase, ¿no? Yo siempre trato de darle ese respeto a quien se lo merece, entonces trato de hacer lo mío y que ellos se encarguen de su parte también, ¿no?
Bueno, aquí tienes el apoyo del público, ¿no? Sería, imagino, un poquito difícil dejar todo esto, ¿no?
Sí, no, obviamente, como siempre lo he dicho, el respeto para mí hacia Los Ángeles es muy grande por todo lo que ellos significan como mexicanos y como latinos y hispanos. La verdad que son gente trabajadora, gente luchadora y siento que me he identificado mucho con ellos.
¿Cuándo era la última vez que cortaste el pelo?
Antes de los playoffs, yo creo.
¿Y estabas aquí en el invierno o regresaste a México?
Arizona, estoy entrenando en el complejo.
Okay.
Sí.
¿Estabas ahí todo el tiempo?
Sí, en Camelback Ranch, sí.
¿Y ese gorra cómo oye?
El flow, sí, el estilo.
So, so that was a friend of the carne asada, Dylan Hernandez, asking, I think, the important questions there. And that's probably what we're going to hear all season. Dylan was the one that asked him, have you discussed a new contract with the Dodgers? Julio says no. And being that he's a Scott Boras client, I think it's a foregone conclusion. He's going to go to free agency. He's going to go ahead and test the market. But this is a story that I think we're going to hear throughout the entire season. Dylan asked him again, this might be your last year with the Dodgers. Have you given that any thought? And I know that you guys hate when we bring up hypotheticals, but we're here to show you this is what's being discussed here. These are the questions that are being asked of these players. I'm very curious to see, there have some people that in a contract year have thrived and have delivered. Is that going to be Julio? Julio's already had 2 great last 2 seasons. So if he balls out even more this season, forget about it. Who knows how much money this guy's going to get. I thought Dylan also asked him a very interesting question, and that is, Julio is aware of the support from Dodger fans. Like, Julio knows that he is beloved here by Dodger fans, and more importantly, he's beloved by Los Angeles. I wonder if that factors into decision. Do you want to leave a place where you're loved, where you know you're going to get that support, to go to some place that you don't know? He's been training, and he did not go back home during the offseason. He was training in Arizona this whole time. I'm very happy to hear him and see how focused he is and how serious he takes the WBC. He gave a lot of credit to the Mexico's managers, Team Mexico's managers. And for those of you who want to learn more about Team Mexico, we had Benji Gill recently on the podcast, so go back and check out that episode. They were giving him a hard time about his hair. As Alonso on the show says, Julio has entered his rockero stage. For those of you who have not seen it, Babyface, what were your thoughts on Julio?
Yeah, just, interesting that Dylan was the one asking those questions, right, about the contract and Julio's just, I'm just going to let my agent take care of it, and kind of, we get those answers, right? He's just going to let he's ready for the season, ready for WBC, ready to go into the season, and we'll see what happens at the end of the year. So, it's obviously nothing that you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds great, right? Like, it's scary, right? You he's going to reach free agency, and being a Scott Boras client, anything can happen, right? We know that Boras is looking for who's going to give me the highest dollar amount, right? And it's very rare when a player, I think, who was the only one, like Jeff Weaver, right, was the only Boras client that he said, I wanted to play in Anaheim, and this was, how long ago, right? Like, even if, is Julio going to say, you know what, I want to play in LA, right?
It was Jared Weaver, I think.
Jared Weaver. So, as far as the community, the Latino community, the Mexican community, down south, right?
Yeah.
Where we fear, something could happen, right? Huge Mexican population down that way as well. So it's I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that, he's going to re-sign with the Dodgers, right? And a lot of factors still coming, see what plays out this year in a bit. We gotta see what Julio brings this year and hope for the best at the end of the year.
The last interview that we want to share with you guys is with Dave Roberts. There's a lot of stuff discussed with Roberts in this. Babyface, play the tape.
I talked to Andrew the other day, and he said he doesn't expect to win 111 games again. So what does it feel like to have the pressure off?
Yeah, that's right. I echo that. I just think it's one of those things that even every year that we go into whatever season, our goal is to go out there and win the West. And however many games that takes, it's going to be a different ball club this year. I would probably say I put more pressure or expectation on myself and our ball club than anyone does. So that's kind of still, when you wear the Dodger uniform, that's the bar. We're still expected to win the division and go beyond.
Do you want to guarantee anything?
I'm not going to guarantee it this year. I'm not going to do that. But again, I still expect to win the World Series. I do. And I don't think that there's anybody that's a part of our organization or fan base that doesn't feel that same way.
A lot of the guys you guys have lost this winter are guys who've been part of postseason run the sport together. How much does having new faces, new voices, how much that's going to change things for you guys?
I think that that's something that is a fair question. I think the core group of guys that we have and we're going to run out there is still intact. But yeah, there's some turnover. You just don't know until you know. And I think that any team that has a chance to contend for the World Series, there's got to be some surprises or people that you don't expect to make contributions. So, you know, this year, Gavin's going to be starting at shortstop, something he hadn't done in a while. You're going to see a lot of Miguel Vargas from the outset. I think James Outman's going to impact our ball club. There's no postseason experience with the last couple guys, and you can talk about Bobby Miller, Gavin Stone, guys that are going to pitch for us this year, Pepio, but you don't know until you know. But I still believe that we're surrounded by a lot of guys that have been on that big stage. I don't. I think that your guys' guess right now is as good as mine. I think Chris Taylor's in the mix. I think Trace is in the mix. I think Hayward's in the mix. I think James Outman's in the mix. And I think Bradley Zimmer, great defender, try to clean up some things with the bat, but you know, he can really defend.
You have more questions like that this year than you probably have in years. Does that feel, you worried about that? Does that bother you?
You know, I don't know if it worries me. I think that, you know, how are we going to get the most out of our ball club? You could almost argue that competition. And I think that I don't think that we've really had that, which you can say is good or bad in years past. But a little competition, earning playing opportunities, I think is a good thing.
When we talked to you at the winter meetings, we were kind of talking about Vargas as a third baseman. Now it looks like he's a second baseman. How did that change?
Talking to Dino Ebel, and where Max has become pretty comfortable at third base. I think as far as the range ability, the foot speed, I think Miguel can handle it. I think he needs to continue to work low to the ground as an infielder. But his baseball IQ, the jump on the baseball, I think is something that I think it makes more sense.
What are the duties of a major league field coordinator, Bob Guarantees?
So Bob, we expanded Bob's role, and he was certainly pretty much an extension of me anyway as bench coach. So we're down one hitting coach. Brent Brown went to Miami. So we're looking for Bob and Danny Lehman to sort of pick up that bandwidth. So he's going to continue to work with the catchers, the running game. He's going to work with the hitting guys and just continue to be more of an extension of me. He's going to have to dig in a lot on the new rules, which he knows that rule book inside and out, which will also help the pitching coaches as well as the hitting guys and the base running side of things. And then Danny Lehman now, named bench coach, more in title and also more the kind of the idea to expand his role and not just be a run prevention coach, but to take on more of some of the stuff that I deal with on the day-to-day. But don't ask me if I get tossed, who's going to go out there. I don't know that answer yet.
Will Garen be in uniform? Like, will he be on the dugout?
He'll be right in the dugout with me. Yeah.
Dave, will either of the Miguel's play for Venezuela or WBC? Do you know?
I think Miguel Rojas is planning on doing that and talking to him. It's still kind of wait and see just how he feels. As far as Vargas, I don't think that's happening.
Thinking out loud, it's Trace, Mookie, Will, Clayton. Who else do you know to be losing for that period of time?
Julio, Freddie. I heard rumblings that Trace Thompson might play for England. You said that. You said Freddie. Barnes might be playing for Team Mexico. You said Dino. Will Smith. Victor Gonzalez, I don't know. I don't think he's going to play for Team Mexico. But to be quite honest, I don't know. I'm more of like, once I show up there, I'm going to see who's in the room. So, and honestly, for me, it's like I don't feel it's my position to encourage or discourage any of these guys to play for their country. That's their personal decision.
It just seems like there's a lot this year.
There's a lot. No, and even so, with the coaches that are going to be missed, I think what I'm looking at it, my spin is it's going to give us a better chance to look at some other guys.
Freddie was just talking about the league.
I think that if you look around the clubhouse, there's a lot of guys that have been around, and I don't see the culture with a couple guys being departed should be affected. But I do think that it's I wouldn't say a call to action, but it's an opportunity for guys like Freddie and Mookie to step up with their voices and not only lead by example, but if there's something that needs to be said, they've earned that right.
Will you encourage them to do that, or do you think that's something that just
I already have, but it's an easy nudging, but I think it's going to happen organically.
You talked about during the winter meetings, especially during that playoff series, maybe some of the intensity or urgency.
Yeah.
How much can you kind of work on that right now during spring, coming into the season, with some of those conversations, and when you guys start to figure out, who those voices in the clubhouse are going to be?
I don't think it's something I'm going to address. Needs to be addressed early. In hindsight, I probably should have addressed it on the front end before the postseason. And that's something, if we're fortunate enough to have this opportunity again next year or this year, I will. It's hard to debate how we go about the regular season and how we perform. So I think getting guys thinking about the postseason in February or April, I think it's way too premature.
Last year I think you talked about with Julio, right? Getting more efficient, getting deeper into the games. This year, what's kind of the next step you want to see him take to kind of...
I challenged Julio last year in Pittsburgh about being more efficient and the third time through managing that. And how are you going to manage that? Because across the industry, pitchers have a harder time doing that. To his credit, he got considerably better from that point on, which allowed him to go deeper in games and pitch well and more efficiently. So I think going forward, I expect more of the same. And he's a guy that's going to be our workhorse. If you look at, the rotation and how it's kind of constructed, I would expect him to lead our staff in innings pitch and perform the way he has the last few years.
You challenged him before or after the start in Pittsburgh?
After.
So there's a lot of stuff there that I want to cover. To me, one of the biggest things that came out of that interview was when they asked him about the intensity and the fact that he acknowledged, maybe I should have addressed that. That to me is alarming. That to me is alarming in a sense for two reasons. One, that has to even be addressed. And the second thing is that he thought about it after the fact. Like, I don't know, that maybe that's just me being too critical about this, but do you think you have to have a conversation about intensity going into the playoffs? And if you do, isn't that a problem in itself, babyface?
Well, yeah. I don't think you have to. It's the playoffs, right? You're a professional player. You're trying to reach a goal, right? You're trying to get to the World Series and win the World Series. You should be hyped, right, and pumped up, right? Like, you should be ready to go, right? I don't care. I know Dave Roberts gets picked on for a lot of things. Like, I don't think Dave Roberts or any manager has to say, hey, you know what, guys? We need to be hyped up and we need to be ready and pumped up for this series, right? I don't think, as a person, as a player in that situation, naturally that should come, right? So that, I think, we got to see that with the players, and there has been some turnover. We'll see what happens this postseason. There's some young blood now, right? So maybe it kind of got stale, right? Like, oh, we're in the playoffs again for a lot of these guys. It's like here it is, the same thing, kind of. So there's some new blood, and maybe that new blood now is gonna show going forward. Like they've never tasted it, right? So they're gonna want it, and hopefully that spills over to the other guys.
Now, there was a lot of talk about leadership there. So before, obviously, Justin Turner was considered to be the leader of this ball club. And to me, Justin Turner doesn't have the same, I don't want to say personality, or maybe it's a poor choice of words, but he's not a Kershaw, where Kershaw is very, like, intense and just a red ass. So, like you said, if it got stale with Turner out, it seems like what Dave Roberts was hinting at there, that it was Freeman and Mookie that need to step up and take over the leadership roles. Well, none of those two guys strike me as intense competitors, rah. I know this is a very bad example to go this far back, but you go back to that 1988 season, Gibson was the kind of guy that got into people's faces. There's a famous story with him and Jesse Orozco. Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts don't strike me as the kind of guy that are going to get into people's faces. So when he sits there and he says, look, we're not going to lose much in leadership because the culture is still there. If the culture wasn't very intense to begin with, how can you sit there and tell people, all right, you need to be intense now, when intensity doesn't seem to be part of the Dodgers culture?
Yeah, I mean, none of those guys. I mean, it'd be interesting. I don't know how much the character of JD Martinez or Miguel Rojas, like, I don't know. I mean, they're known as good leaders, right? I mean, I don't know. It remains to be seen, like how they're going to interact with these guys on day-to-day basis, how they're going to, fire these guys up if they need it, right? I mean, so maybe it's one of those guys, like I said, it remains to be seen. But, as it stands right now, if we go down the roster, we're like, well, yeah, maybe no, I don't think that guy, and I don't think that guy. So, let's hope someone steps up, right, and takes that role.
In regards to the Bob Guerin, I felt that Dave Roberts did a lot of verbal gymnastics to try to make it seem like it's not a demotion. But listening to how Roberts was describing Guerin's responsibilities, it sounds like Bob Guerin is still the bench coach, and Danny Lehman is bench coach in name only. It seems like they're still going to rely on Guerin, like making like, hey, Guerin, look over these new rules, the rule changes, make sure you're on top of it. So I thought that was interesting. And I also thought it was interesting that Dino Ebel is the one they're putting the finger on and saying it was Dino's idea to put Miguel Vargas at second base. So now if that doesn't work out, is Dino the one that's going to take the hint? What do you think about these Dodger coaching changes?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the bench coach was interesting, right? I mean, we'll see. Like, so usually the bench coach is the guy right there, right next to the manager, right? So
yeah,
is Dino still going to be there? Or is it going to be Lehman, right? Like, so
you mean Guerin? Is Guerin going to be there? Or is it going to be Lehman?
Yeah. Is it Bob Guerin or is it going to be Lehman, right? Who's going to be the guy? So like, that remains to be seen. So a lot of stuff needs to be worked out. It seems like there's still, spring training. That's kind of whatever. It's just what gets you ready for the season. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to be worked out and figured out, and we'll start getting into it in a couple of weeks.
The last thing that I want to get with Roberts there that I found very interesting was he still has no clue who his center fielder is, and how, like, matter of factly, like, it's a done deal that Outman's going to get a lot of time in the beginning, and that Bobby Miller and Gavin Stone for sure are going to see time in the major leagues. Did you interpret that the same way I did?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I figured. I mean, Outman's going to get every chance to be that outfielder, right? The center fielder. Same thing with Vargas, right? Those guys are going to get the first shot unless they somehow go out and do nothing in spring, right? They have a horrendous spring. Then that's like the only way I probably don't see them making the roster, right? They're going to be on that opening day roster. And then Bobby Miller, like I said, I think he'll probably get the first shot. and then Stone. Probably they need a sixth starter or something. Somebody goes down. I think those are the guys that we're going to start seeing this year. This is going to be their year. Like I said, Stone. I'm guessing Stone will be a little bit later down the road. But yeah, I think this is their year. This is their chance to make an impact.
So we saved the best for last. So we showed you the interviews that we had with the players, our initial thoughts about being back at FanFest for the first time in a few years. But the Dodgers dropped a bombshell on FanFest, and I don't think anyone saw this coming. We were in the visitors' bullpen, and Dodgers PR basically told us, hey, you guys want to go out there on the center stage. There's going to be a big announcement. And we saw Valenzuela come out. And immediately I was scratching my head going, wait a minute, what's going on? And I know you were thinking the same thing, right, Babyface? What were your initial thoughts when you saw Valenzuela standing next to the stage?
Yeah, once they told us to go out and we saw that Fernando came out and we saw that Fernando was going up on the stage, our hamster brains start running around, right? We're like, yeah. Okay, are they finally going to do it? Are they going to retire the number, right? And then as I walked over to the other side, and I'm like, now you know what? I think they're going to do a statue. They're going to announce a statue. That's kind of what was my initial thought. And then obviously, they announced that he's going to get his number retired.
Yeah, so the big announcement there was that the Dodgers are finally retiring Fernando Valenzuela's jersey. For those of you who have been loyal listeners to the show, you guys know we have a pseudo campaign on here to get that number retired. It was important for us that Valenzuela be recognized and that number 34 be retired. So it was kind of, I was still shocked that it actually happened. I know Babyface even asked to me, he looked at me, he goes, why now? Why did they all of a sudden, after all these years, decide? So they make the announcement. Of course, all the media is there wanting to talk to Fernando. And guess what, guys? So those guys got to talk to Fernando, but a very few handful of media actually got to spend one-on-one time with Fernando. So we got some alone time with Fernando, and we are going to show you that interview, but not on this episode. It's going to be on an episode of the podcast that we're going to drop later on this week. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to that YouTube video so you could see our interaction with Fernando. We're going to have a big episode, a big celebration episode, because I want Babyface to say it. Babyface, who was responsible for Fernando's jersey being retired?
I mean,
just say it. Don't be humble, man. Just say it.
I mean, a little podcast could have had something to do with it, right? I mean,
The Bleed Los podcast. The Bleed Los. So we're going to have a big celebration episode of Fernando Valenzuela's jersey being retired. We're going to drop that episode later this week. We also have a great episode that we are dropping tomorrow, or Monday, excuse me. We're dropping on Monday, and that's the Dean. The Dean of LA Sports, Fred Rogan, joins us on the Bleed Los podcast. So we're going to have two great episodes this week. So for those of you who have not subscribed to the audio podcast, make sure you do it. For those of you who have stumbled upon us here on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You're going to be able to see all our regular podcast episodes on YouTube, but then you can also see these special YouTube episodes that are exclusive just to YouTube, where we come here because we are the podcast of the people. One of the things I want to leave with this before we end this episode, what was really great was for Babyface and I to be walking around FanFest and people acknowledging the Bleed Los podcast. People walking up to us, acknowledging that they watch our show, they enjoy our interviews. It feels like we're doing something right, Babyface?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to meet people that watch this show and they tell us, hey, we love what you guys are doing. That makes us want to continue to do this and continue to do something. To me, it's something different. Like I get it. There's tons of podcasts. There's tons of Dodger podcasts that you could be listening to, and you do, right, and that's great. But I think what separates us is we try and do something a little bit different than most podcasts don't, and I think our listeners realize that, right, and I think that's why they keep checking us out.
Absolutely. So again, for this episode of the Bleed Close Podcast YouTube, yo he sido su servidor, Juan Ramírez, de parte de mi colega Babyface. Nos vemos para la próxima.
And if you have a sombrero, throw it
up
in
in the sky.